What is going on, everyone? As you can see, it's Mr. OTM, Kyle Gagliardi here, one half of the NXT Night Shift, and this isn't your typical NXT Night Shift production. No, because this is an NXT review, a solo review from yours truly, since we didn't have an episode this week. Guys, we were a little busy. I should say, Jay Gold was being a great father this week. He took his daughter Harper to Six Flags. They had a blast, as I saw all over his Instagram account. So I'm glad that he got to enjoy himself. But I was still able to watch NXT this week, so I figured, hey, you know what, guys? I might as well talk about what all went down on this week's episode because, of course, we had NXT Heatwave this past weekend, which I thoroughly enjoyed. But before we get into all that, guys, this episode, this YouTube video, whatever you want to call it, is brought to you by the Main Event Wrestling Network. If you're unfamiliar with what we do over here, we are a conglomeration of wrestling content creators coming together to just give you guys some unique and entertaining professional wrestling coverage. We do things a little different around here. Like I said, we got an interesting cast of characters, which you will be able to see in their entirety this Saturday for Main Event Marathon going down. If you're unfamiliar with that, we previously did a 24-hour stream before, and we figured, you know what, since it is Labor Day weekend, we might as well do it again, but this time things are going to be a little shorter. We're going to be doing it a 12-hour stream, and I say that with a grain of salt because 12 hours is nothing to scoff at. We're going to have everybody a part of the network that's going to be on that. So make sure you're following the Main Event Wrestling Network and subscribe here on YouTube because this is the home of the Main Event Marathon going down this Saturday, like I said. And of course, if you want to keep up with the night shift, we'll be back next week at our usual time, Tuesday, 15 minutes after NXT goes off the air. So since I'm by myself, let me take a sip of this water, and we're going to get into this week's NXT recap from August 26, 2025. Let's jump right into things with what kicked off NXT this week, and it was Ricky Saints and Josh Briggs. We saw on Heatwave that these two guys basically were calling their shot. Ricky Saints went up to Javon Evans before his match with Obafemi at Heatwave saying, you know what, I got next. I'm going to be the new number one contender. And Josh Briggs also confronted Obafemi at Heatwave this past week and saying that he was the number one contender. And man, Ricky Saints absolutely owned Briggs on the microphone in this opening segment for the limited time that they did give it. And I'm glad they did give it a limited time because, like I said, Ricky Starks probably would have eaten Briggs alive on the microphone. But there is one thing I will say about Josh Briggs. I know my other half, Jay Gold, isn't the biggest fan of his, but he does deliver in big matches. And that basically was what this opening promo was to set up that number one contendership match that would later determine who would fight Obafemi at NXT No Mercy, because there is plenty of NXT, shows coming up. We got Homecoming, NXT No Mercy, and I believe I'm blanking. Halloween Havoc. There we go. That's the other one going down because we are getting closer to the fall. But yeah, Ricky Saints wins the war of words, I guess you will, in this opening segment, and that just basically set up the main event. After that, we got Kalani Jordan versus Blake Monroe once again. We got a little appetizer a couple weeks ago when these two faced off. And man, these two have great chemistry. Once again, we didn't really get the full meal here because Jordan Grace would be the reason that Blake Monroe would lose this match. And you know what? I really thought we were going to move past Blake Monroe and Jordan Grace, but it seems as if they are prolonging Blake Monroe getting into that major title scene. They just don't want to put her in there right away, which I guess is fair. But to me, Blake Monroe still should be the one to defeat JC Jane for that NXT Women's title. I didn't really think we needed to continue this feud. Like I said, Jordan Grace lost fair and square at Heatwave. So, I mean, sure, it's going to be another good match because their match at Heatwave was my favorite. That was the match of the night at Heatwave. A lot of people might say Javon Evans versus Obafemi, but for me, it was Blake Monroe versus Jordan Grace. So Jordan Grace is the reason that Blake Monroe lost this match once again to Kalani Jordan. So I also think that's going to be a callback in the near future. Something tells me once Blake Monroe does get that NXT Women's title, that Kalani will just use these two wins as motivation to get a title match. So don't be surprised if you see that one in the later months this year, or maybe at the beginning of next year. So after that, we got a blindfold match. We don't see many of these anymore in wrestling. Lexis King defeated Miles Bourne via pinfall. Look, it was fun. It was entertaining. If you don't know what a blindfold match is, it's pretty self-explanatory. Both competitors have blindfolds over their heads, so they can't see what they're wrestling. It's comedy at its finest. Lexis King and Miles Bourne, that's basically what this feud has been. So for what it was, I enjoyed it. Once again, nothing crazy. I don't need to talk much about it. This is just going to be a quick review. Playing the hits here since this isn't a full episode of NXT Night Shift, but I figured I'd want to give you guys my opinions. I don't know how many of you are going to watch this, which, by the way, if you're watching this right now, guys, I appreciate you. Thank you from Mr. OTM. I'll talk to you some more this Saturday for the half marathon. And then after that, we had a backstage segment where, Charlie Dempsey kind of soothed Ren Sinclair's anxiety a bit. She didn't have a tag team partner, but they brought in Kendall Gray, who obviously has that amateur pro wrestling background. So it makes sense that she would be the one to be willing to team with the NQCC here and Ren Sinclair. So that would obviously set up that match between the Culling, Izzy Dame, and Tatum Paxley, who defeated Ren Sinclair and Kendall Gray. Match was fine. It was shorter. Once again, I don't hate what the Culling is doing. I'm not a huge fan of it, but at least this is giving Tatum Paxley something to do. And who knows, maybe Kendall Gray is somebody that could be a full-time member of the NQCC going forward. I think that's somebody to definitely keep an eye on there for sure. But Izzy Dame, the Culling, and Tatum Paxley get the win here in that tag team match. So we also had a backstage segment during the show where Zaruka presented Lola Vice with a t-shirt for their 6-woman tag match. That was the big main event that they were building up to on this episode. It was a big moment for Lola Vice getting that win at Heatwave because she is now the new #1 contender. So just a little backstage there. We also got on this episode Oba Femi and Ricky Saints, who had an in-ring promo but were attacked by Dark State. Hank and Tank would come for the save there. Once again, setting up, future matches there. We also found out on this episode that Candice LeRae, Lainey Reed, and Fabi Apache, and once again, I'm probably butchering that because I'm not familiar with AAA, and then Zaya Brookside from TNA will be new competitors to decide who fights Sol Ruca for that WWE Speed Championship at No Mercy. And I'm very excited for the Speed Championship to make its way into NXT because I have no problem with more titles being brought into a developmental brand just to build up a resume of sorts and get these guys experience having some credibility, having that attached to their name, Speed Champion. It might not seem much in the grand scheme of things, but now it is going to be incorporated into NXT television. So a lot of cool names that are going to be involved here. I saw a tweet. I forgot once again who said it. Maybe it was Rhea Ripley. Yeah, it was Mommy Rhea Ripley. She said she believed that Candice LeRae is the most underrated superstar on the roster. And I totally agree. I hope Candice LeRae is featured a little bit more on television going forward. And maybe the Speed title being in NXT gives her something to do there. But after that, Tyra May Steele defeated Alba Fire. Once again, another okay match, but just fantastic stuff between the Secret Harvest, Chelsea Green, and Ethan Page. We've talked a lot about that on this show in the past couple weeks, and man, they picked up a big win at Heatwave, and Tyra May Steele gets her lick back here on NXT, defeating Alba Fire. It was okay, like I said. And then the main event, last thing I want to touch on, 6-woman tag team match, Lola Vice and Zaruka taking on Fatal Influence, and the babyfaces would pick up the win here, and man, the dissension just continues for Fatal Influence. It seems like Jasmine Nix is going to be on her way out of Fatal Influence very soon, and I don't really know who could replace her, or even if they want to replace her. Maybe everything will just split up from here, but obviously, you want to make the babyface team of Lola Vice and Zaruka look strong here because Lola Vice will be having an NXT title match at No Mercy. I don't think she wins. Maybe in the next couple weeks they will change my opinion on that, but I still think JC Jane's going to hold on to it because, like I said earlier, Blake Monroe is the slam dunk choice, in my opinion, to take that title off of JC Jane. But, really fun main event. The NXT women's division is just so awesome. They're stacked. They're deep. There's so many people that aren't involved in titles like Lash Legend, and Jada Parker is the first one that jumps off the page to me that's happening next week. And those two could easily be in the title picture tomorrow, and nobody would bat an eye. It's just, this main event was fantastic. Fatal Influence has been the staple of NXT for the past couple years, and I really don't think they get the love and the respect that they deserve, because after Toxic Attraction, there was a void for a dominant women's faction. And sure, Fatal Influence is basically a knockoff Toxic Attraction, but if it works, it works. And I definitely think it has worked. It's probably ran its course, at least with the iteration of the group that they have now. So once again, really solid main event. A good show. I really enjoyed Heatwave. I made a hot take online that Heatwave might have been a better show than Forbidden Door. That wasn't me just being tribalistic, because I enjoy both companies, as you know. I was just giving you my honest opinion, because going into the weekend, I thought Forbidden Door was going to be the better show. But once again, for me personally, and you might disagree with me, be like, this guy's an idiot. How can you say that? I enjoyed Heatwave more, and I enjoyed NXT this week. But yeah, I just figured I'd give you some quick hits, give you a quick recap of what all went down last night on NXT. But guys, don't forget to subscribe. We are on the road to 200 subscribers over here at the Main Event Wrestling Network. We got the half marathon stream starting at 9 a.m. Eastern this Saturday, August 30th, and we are going to be live until 9 p.m. Eastern. Yes, that makes it a complete 12 hours. Like I said, this Saturday, featuring NXT Night Shift, who will be kicking off that stream at 9 a.m. Eastern for the hour. We'll be joined by Sam's on Wrestling, and I will be closing with the On the Mark Wrestling podcast in the last hour. So give us a follow at NXT Night Shift on X, and follow the Main Event Wrestling Network on all socials at mainevent_net. And I'll see you guys later this week. Thanks for checking out my NXT review from August 26th, 2025. See ya.